It's time to hammer.
Now I gotta really try hard.
Shut it down! Somehow it's the best.
Yum Chunks Podcast.
Yum Chunks!
Hello, good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time you happen to be listening to us. Welcome back to After the Credits, a Yum Chunks podcast. I'm Matt Chewy. With me today is Ryan Davis.
Hi.
Chris Schmidt.
Hey.
And Sean Davis.
That's me.
Hey, how are we doing today? We got a little bit of different episode for you coming up right here in the now times. Today we're going to be talking about E3, the latest and greatest and the things that you.
So how we doing? What does E3 stand for?
A Electronics Expo of
Electronics.
How are we doing today,
Partial
guys?
credit.
How's it going?
Good, doing good. Oh, we have to mention Vince hates video games and demanded to be left out of this episode.
Okay, well, Chris, we had the Chris bashing episode last
Now it's
time
the
around, so
Yep.
all right, that's okay. You guys will get your chance next
Yeah.
time. We'll all get our chance.
Yeah.
So
We'll all get our chance to take our hits.
doesn't matter. Vince isn't going to listen to this.
But yes, Vince couldn't be here tonight. He'll join us again soon though. It'll happen. We think probably. Jeez, having kids though.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Who's Vince?
He's the guy. He's the guy, you know. All right. Well, like I said, today we're going to be talking about this year's E3 Expo, which is redundant because one of the E's stands for Expo.
Well, it does now in common kind of usage, but originally it stood for Electronic Education Entertainment Expo.
Oh, it was E4.
Now it but Expo was like kind of the E3 Expo. Now education has kind of been
We're not educating
dropped.
anyone anymore.
So it's more just like the Electronic Entertainment Expo.
That's a good.
But little known
Thanks
thing.
for-
There's you're
giving me my education right here, right
next
on the
time
spot.
you're on Jeopardy
The next time.
and get escorted off the set by security.
The last time I was
Just
on Jeopardy and
yell
got
that.
escorted off the set. Right. So you three gentlemen, Ryan, Sean, Chris, you guys had the opportunity to attend E3. Two of you being in the industry, that's a pretty normal thing for you guys. And then Ryan, you just go anyway.
I just tag along.
That's the perks for having friends and family in the industry
quite
too.
a perk.
I didn't get to go this year. I've gone twice. If you count the time I got thrown out.
Yes, that counts.
We can't. I was on the floor for 20 minutes. I've gone in the past, but I did not get a chance to attend this year, so I'll be leading the conversation and kind of...
I mean, it makes sense, but it also doesn't.
Well, here's the thing. No, the reason it makes sense is because I need you guys to tell me about it so that I can pretend that I was there.
Okay.
Close your eyes as we talk to you.
Yeah,
Excellent.
imagine.
You can imagine the flashing lights and sounds.
And the lines and the odors.
So,
The odors.
Yeah, so our chance to live vicariously going to E3 for everybody else who's listening and for myself. So I will be asking you the things that I wish I had experienced and could find out firsthand. So, and before we get started, I'll reiterate, we've mentioned in past episodes before, but why don't you guys, not you, Ryan,
Dang it.
but why don't you other guys kind of just tell the listeners kind of your relation to video games and this whole machine.
I'm in an open relationship with video games.
Oh.
I work for Naughty Dog, the video game studio Naughty Dog. So as you can imagine, we were pretty busy leading up to the C3, and I was actually working this show. But that's my relation. I've also worked on other titles in the past. I've worked for Sony before. So
What does working at E3 consist of for you?
it could mean a lot of different things. For me, in the past, it basically... so if you saw the Last of Us 2 trailer that we debuted, the demo sequence, that was a video capture of basically live gameplay that was a playable sequence that we demoed. And during the press conference, we showed the video of it. But throughout the rest of the show, for members of the press and select audiences, we actually demoed that as live gameplay. And I was playing that sequence live for those people. So
you were.
I was playing it.
Wow, that's
It
cool.
wasn't something that the public could play or anyone else could play, really. But I and a handful of others who were demoing it we would play through that live sequence in front of an audience of, press or whoever, and then they would pose questions to designers, and some of the game creators were also, were there demoing the trailer. And so then it gave the journalists a chance to rewatch it, and then pose questions afterwards.
I know I've spoken to you in the past about kind of similar situations and kind of heard from other, but the game is in development, so I'm sure that it's not really in a state that players could play it on a show floor. It's that kind of situation. Like, you have to have someone like you playing it because there's only certain things you could probably do. I would guess
we call it a choreographed demo. Okay. So it's definitely gameplay and it's live, but there are parts that we choreograph to hit certain beats and specific parts of gameplay that we want to highlight. So
or like if players were just playing it on the floor, they may not get to spotlight certain sequences or things that can happen in the game that you're going to show off.
Exactly.
Right. So, the year I went to E3, I played the demo of Arkham Knight on the show floor, and I was a fool and didn't try out the Batmobile, and that was like the only big thing that they added for that game. And then I walked away and I went, "Wait a second, I'm a dang fool." So, Chris, same question.
So I work at Ready at Dawn currently. I also used to work at Sony. And I never work those conventions. I like to think that the companies like to keep me in the cellar, locked away.
I mean, do you like to think that, or is that what's actually happening? Should we call the police?
He broke out. He's walking the floor with me. I don't know.
They don't want Chris associated publicly with their...
Yeah, basically. So, who gave Chris this shirt? Let's take the shirt away.
Speaking of walk the floor, let's open up to our first topic. I'll start with you, Ryan. Why don't you just...
Walking the floor.
Right. So,
how were your feet? Did they hurt?
How
was the floor?
The floor was solid.
Literally.
Luckily, my feet do work. The floor also works. I didn't know which way you were asking that, but
it's both
worked.
Question.
They were both physical matter that were able to collide and provide me friction to move forward and in any
excellent.
They pull out all the stops at E3.
Yeah.
Spare
the
no
collision
expense.
detection is primo.
You would expect of all places.
Oh wait, we also forgot. Mention spoilers ahead. So if you are a time traveler and don't want to be spoiled for what is revealed at E3 2018, stop listening now.
Great. Okay, so can you kind of start us off with just sort of the your impressions of the actual show floor itself, just kind of what it's like to walk around the convention and kind of the sights and sounds and some of the things that you did and saw.
Yeah, well, I'll start off by saying I just love conventions in general. I just like, it's a gathering of people with all common interests. They're all very excited to be here for the very same reason. And that applies to Comic-Con. I went to the MD&M conference this year, which is just a conference for manufacturing. And even that, which was mostly people selling wires. Like, honestly, it was wires and, like, tubes.
I just imagine people with freaking hands full of stripped wire.
I got all these tubes, man. You gotta get some of these tubes off my hand.
Yeah. And even that was pretty fun.
It sounds like a great time.
It was a great time. But E3 is definitely a step up in that it's actually exciting to look at new video games and see people all excited about what's coming out. So yeah, it was exciting. It's fun. Even if you don't get to play the games, you still can kind of look over people's shoulders and watch and see. Kingdom Hearts 3. There's some playable action stuff. Cool.
Now, did you get to play any games?
I did. I got to play quite a few actually. I got lucky on a couple where some, like the first game I played was actually a VR game, and I just
Chris, that's what you're all about.
Yeah.
I live in that world. Not the world that he played in at that time.
If our Ready Player One podcast is any indication, as someone who works in VR.
As someone that works in VR.
Yeah.
What did you feel about VR?
I freaking love VR. I know it's not the most popular medium of video games right now, but I hope it keeps making its appearance more and more and people start to like it, because I freaking love it. I played this one that was basically a CS. It's like Counter-Strike in VR, and everything that you would imagine that would promise. And I freaking loved it. It was awesome.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so nothing too fancy or whatever, but yeah, it was good times. I don't know, do you want me to just keep listing other things I played?
I mean, anything that stood out to you in particular, something like you come home and the people, whoever's at home goes, "Hey, Ryan, you're back from E3. And then you go, yeah, I am. Let me tell you about this thing.
Well, the thing that I never want to tell them about, if I'm allowed to mention it, is actually the Echo Combat. The first time I played Echo Arena last year, and I freaking loved it, and I ended up getting a VR pretty much because of that game. And so this was the combat version of that, and it was like Ender's Game. It was now, instead of throwing a disc, I could freaking shoot people as I fly around in zero Gs. And it was amazing. It's intuitive. It's like, yes, this is finally technology has delivered what it's always promised.
Oh, great. So this is kind of a direction in gaming you kind of
I
hope to see for a while. And
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I love the pandering. Everyone at work's going to love that.
Yeah, you're welcome, Ready Don.
How about you, gentlemen? Chris, what stood out to you?
I mean, what mostly stood out to me was things I couldn't see behind closed doors.
What?
So the opposite of standing out.
Sean, what stood out to you?
Well, okay, so I guess going back to the floor. So normally when you go to E3, there are two halls. I forget what, there's like a West Hall and a North Hall, South Hall or whatever. And then one of those halls usually houses the big three: Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft. And Microsoft went rogue this year, and they were hosting
the last 2 years. Last year they were in the West Hall. Last year,
were they?
Yeah. And this year they were like, no, we're abandoning both halls entirely. And they went into the completely separate building.
So yeah, because of that, I never went there.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It's too much work.
Now their building's a little bit of a walk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well...
It's like a long hallway.
I can't think it helped their foot traffic.
I can't either.
Yeah, it just seems weird to me.
And then usually in the other hall is most of the third-party, second-party stuff. Anything like Intel, Alienware, Facebook, they're usually all in a separate hall from Sony and Nintendo and everything. And then on the show floor, normally they have demos and lines for demos where you sit in line for hours like you're at Disneyland.
I will say that I thought they did a smart thing. It's also partially kind of frustrating, but I do think overall is improvement. They were capping the lines this year, whereas basically we're capped. It's an hour wait. We're not letting anyone else get into this line. At a certain level, that's cool because it's like, okay, I know I don't have a chance. They won't let people wait there for 5 hours just to do nothing. And it makes the flow a little bit better so these lines aren't bogging just the floor space up. At the same time, what ends up happening is kind of like, oh, come back in a couple minutes and we'll let people... So people just kind of mill it like, what do you do? Like, it's just like this is a nebulous non-line right beside the actual line. You know, so like I said, I do like that they're doing that, but I still feel like they gotta work the bugs out. They gotta work out a few things.
Yeah.
All right, but back to my comment. I guess so E3 is at its core still an industry event, and a lot of what goes on there is selling. Like people or companies go there and they set up times where they meet with publishers and stuff behind closed doors to try to pitch ideas for games that they have, trying to find funding for them. And that's how you get, little indie whatever and Sony with a partnership and things like that. And also that's very similar to when games are just not ready to be demoed by the public at large. They instead show it off to press and everything behind closed doors, usually with someone from like QA or a designer going through specific aspects of what is there just to get coverage. So that being said, that's what I mean by I couldn't see the things that I wanted to. They had a presence there, like Last of Us 2, Cyberpunk 2077. They were all there and playable, just not to the people at large. You had to have like an appointment and press.
So you're saying that once E3 opened themselves to the public, you think the publishers or developers kind of limited themselves in terms of what they were willing to show?
No, that was there to begin with. It's a matter of not just letting anybody look at your stuff when it's not ready. It's kind of always been that way.
Like I said, I didn't go this year, but the last year that I went was when they were showing off Rise of the Tomb Raider. So that was a little while ago now that the third one's kind of in the spotlight. But one of the most memorable things for me on the show floor was their presentation. They had like an ice cave set up. Like they had a Lara Croft cosplayer and that you could take pictures with, and then you went into this cave and there were torches, and like it was very Disneyland, and it kind of led you into this little small theater where the developers were there and they would do a choreographed demo, and I was really impressed by the kind of the production value of just what could have just been walking into a room and seeing footage. Was there anything comparable to that this year?
So the Tomb Raider one was at the Square Enix booth. There was a Lara Croft cosplayer hired roaming about, but they didn't have anything set up like that. The only place I saw, there are two places I think that were set up like that. There was the Resident Evil 2,
the Resident Evil 2
which was set up as the Raccoon City Police Department, and then
building and stuff.
There was Bethesda's, which wasn't really dressed up, but it was like an experience where they're walking you through like little rooms that were see-through walls, so you could actually see them from outside, that were kind of set up like a room from a bunker or whatever.
Oh, so
it was like a vault. It was like you were in a vault, and it was a special celebration. I would say just in general, there wasn't anything as extensive as that specific display. And in the past, there's been a few, but just in general, everyone had some sort of theming, and they did a set design and set decoration, even if it wasn't so, like you said, Disneyland, where you're kind of fed through an inline experience. It's just like, even like the Fortnite, it was like, oh, they had it set up, and it was the fake turf, and I got a popcorn
mechanical bowl, remember?
And mechanical bowl. Like, so there was Bethesda you mentioned, and even the Sony one, there's not really anything themed at Sony, but they have all the mascots walking around. Kratos and Atreus were walking around. Aloy. Like, so there's Nintendo is always just like a certain style, so they don't do a lot of set decoration stuff, but not to diminish their presentation. It's just that they go for a different style. So yeah, I would say just in general, there's a little bit of that throughout, but there wasn't anything as just like, ooh, what an experience.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I didn't experience the year that I went is I didn't get to attend any of the press conferences. I didn't even know if I could, or maybe there weren't even any going on that day. I think I went later on in the week. But can you guys tell me a little bit about that and what it was like this year, and what were some... What were some good moments of there? It seems like every year online, all the big three press conferences end up spawning a bunch of memes, and it always becomes a big cultural thing. So, what are some things that you guys find noteworthy?
So, the reason you didn't see it is because the press conferences always happen before the first day of E3.
Okay.
So, to get into it, you have to be there ahead of time with, I think, a totally different badge to get you in.
Most of the time, the press conferences are invite only. So even if you have a badge or exhibitor or whatever, it doesn't matter. You have to invite only. They're all either on Monday. Some of them are on Sunday, I think. Sunday this year, even. So they're they're not a separate thing. They're definitely very much a part of E3. Mm-hmm. In most people's minds, they're probably all of E3.
I think they started on Saturday this year.
Maybe even Saturday. But the thing is that what's nice about the press conferences is that, like I said, anyone could experience those because they're all of them stream.
And Sony even streams it in movie theaters. Like, they sell tickets to go do it or whatever. Yeah.
So I have been to them in live in person in the past, and it is really fun. Like, it's awesome to be part of that in person live. Just like. But in terms of what you're seeing content-wise, you're not getting anything more out of it. Right. So as someone who watches at home streaming, you actually get a pretty good sense of kind of like the excitement levels and what do you like. I mean, it's just a trailer.
Right.
You're not necessarily getting a lot out of it just by being there.
Mm-hmm. So what about this year's then? So I assume you guys all watched all the big streams?
Yeah, I watched most of them. I think just for the conference on its own, I thought actually Microsoft probably had one of the better conferences, not judging necessarily content per se, because a lot of their stuff that was really cool was stuff that wasn't exclusive. Cyberpunk 2077 is really anticipated game, one of my most anticipated, and it was shown at the Microsoft press conference. It's not going to be just on Xbox, but Microsoft got the, same with like Kingdom Hearts. They showed... I mean, there was also with the other ones too, but like that, you know what I mean? Like, so just if you're judging the conference as a piece of like entertainment on its own, the Microsoft was pretty good. Ubisoft was pretty good with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Beyond Good and Evil 2, a couple others. The Sony one was good, but I also think it was a little weird the way it was presented. There was some like odd pacing issues.
Right off the bat, there was a separate room for the Last of Us 2 part. And so they funneled everybody into this set. And they were like, everybody, let's start the conference here. And everybody's watching and they get this cool Last of Us 2 presentation and everything like that. And then it's over and they're like, okay, now you go into the real theater. And so for all the people at home, you're watching and they cut to some people talking and stuff like that. And also, which they oddly state, they're like, oh, our goal this year is to have no surprises. We just wanted to keep hammering what we got, just give the people the great stuff that they know and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know if saying you have no surprises is a good way to win people over. People are watching these for surprises, right?
Yeah, and so there was like weird downtime where it's like, oh, why are we watching people talk about if the press conference is still going, but they're just waiting for people to move to a different room? Like it was just awkward.
And then once they got in the theater, it became normal. But it was so weird to just do that on a different set.
Yeah,
but I mean, Ubisoft is probably like king of the memes because they're so weird. Like, they always open up with a insane Just Dance thing, which everybody now just expects to be freaking as corny as possible.
Yeah, they kind of lean into that, so it's like, okay, that's fine.
But I do agree that Microsoft probably took it. They came out the gate first, essentially, and they had all these big, not exclusives, but multi-platform games. They gave the people exactly what they wanted. People wanted to see Cyberpunk, and people wanted to see Kingdom Hearts, and people wanted to see all this other stuff. And the fact that they got to it first actually meant a lot. Also, it seems like they've learned from Sony in the past, and this year it was pure trailer, right? It was just like trailer, no business in between, no talking about, oh, Xbox Gold services, upgrade, blah, 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 right? None of that. Fans of games don't really care about that. They just care about the games. And so Microsoft finally seems like they're on board with that concept.
Yeah.
So.
The Square Enix one was kind of a letdown. That was kind of just because they had Kingdom Hearts.
It was everything that was already essentially at the Microsoft one.
Yeah, it was, and then it was short, and then they took time to even mention the Final Fantasy trading card game. As a fan of we all play that, which oh, that's cool to mention. But as the general audience, why? What is this? I don't want to show us the Final Fantasy 7 remake.
So they did have a couple new things, like a new Platinum game announced. Yeah, there's Babylon's Fall or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
That could be interesting.
Yeah, it looks good.
But I don't know. I mean, so you've seen some of the trailers, though, Matt. What thing? Like I said, you are experiencing a lot of the press conferences, as much as people who are there who attend E3. Is there stuff that you?
Yeah, I saw a handful of things, and I also watched a couple things right before we turned the microphone on. On my own, I watched. I saw the bit of the press conference and the trailer for the Cuphead DLC, which didn't show a whole lot, but I really liked Cuphead. So I'm excited for that. Look, should we talk about Kingdom Hearts?
Are we going there yet?
No.
How long are we making this episode?
I watched the Kingdom Hearts content, and I mean,
you look so defeated.
It is what it is. I mean, it feels a bit too late at this point. I wish. If it had come out sooner, I would maybe not feel so jaded. But I love all the new. I love Frozen. I love Tangled. What else did they have in there? Wreck-It Ralph.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Toy Story.
I'm over Pirates, but I like Toy Story. I like all the IPs that they're putting in this. Yeah, they're finally going on all the Pixar route. Sora sounds freaking weird.
Well, Haley Joel Osment is now 36 or something.
Yeah, well, is it still Haley Joel Osment? Yeah. That's a mistake. Just outright.
It needs work.
He's got a pretty unique voice. It'd be hard to replace him.
I don't think his voice is that unique, because I don't think Sora's that unique of a character, and he sounds like a 40-year-old man now. So
he sounds like a 40-year-old man trying to be a teenager.
It's a little off-putting. Yeah, but it looks fine. I mean, every year as we get farther and farther away from the last Kingdom Hearts game, and they put a bit of content out every year at one of these E3s, my excitement is just halved. So I'm kind of that game really doesn't need to come out in January, like they said. And they said 2018, and I said there's no way it's going to be 2018, and lo and behold, but that game game needs to come out, because every year another E3 passes and the game doesn't come out, my excitement cuts in half again. So
this must be so minuscule.
Not going to be much.
It'll never go away entirely.
Exactly. Yeah. There'll still be some there. Will it be enough to actually get me to play the game?
Yeah.
At the point I'm at right now, I won't pay full price for it.
Even not with the full collection of everything that ever 2.5 and a half and a thing and a
I will wait for it to be in the bargain bin, or I will borrow it and pay nothing from one of you guys. Because all three of you guys, I'm sure, are going to buy it. So
maybe, probably.
Yes, you are.
I already pre-ordered the collector. I already pre-ordered the Ultra Collector's Edition.
So you'll have like 3 copies of every title now?
I watched a little bit of the Last of Us 2 trailer before turning it off. 1, out of realizing how long it was, and 2, out of guilt that I still haven't played The Last of Us, which is by a studio that Sean works for. So, until I've caught up...
They're going to have to let Sean go. Yeah. Can't even convince your friends to play these games?
Look,
I own through Uncharted. He mentioned.
I'm part of the way through Uncharted right now. I'm halfway through Uncharted 3. I will get to 4, and I haven't played 4 yet. But once I'm almost there... and I'm getting caught up. But as it stands, I own more video games in my Steam library that I will play before I die.
You just have to come to terms with that.
I've come to terms with that. You sit down. I bet you guys have too. You can sit down and you calculate how long it takes for you to play through a game and versus how many games you own versus the average lifespan. Yeah. You're not going to play all those games.
I'd rather have more games than I would, right?
That's true.
I was like, man, I'm going to be dead, and all this time in my life I could have filled up with video games.
Wasting precious moments. Doing other things like hanging out with your friends and family.
What a life of regret I've lived.
Ryan, what kind of trailers or press conference moments really got your jimmies
so I hadn't actually seen...
what did you say?
It's talking about wrestling your jimmies.
I'll tell you what wrestled my jimmies.
All right.
Well, I hadn't actually seen a lot of the trailers until I arrived at E3, and then I just stood in front of that gigantic screen and watched a bunch of them. Even though I knew about the games, or I'd seen prior teaser trailers, like Death Stranding, which I still don't know what to make of that, but like Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man, just the new one, looks awesome.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah,
I was just saying to you guys earlier, but I have been saying this since probably Arkham City. It is a wasted opportunity that they're not taking every single comic book character IP franchise and making Arkham clones.
Right, and now they are.
As shameless as an idea as that is, I would play every single one of them.
Oh yeah,
because that gets such a fun engine, and cool, just swap out with different powers and skins. I'd be fine with that. And I'm glad that finally somebody's doing that. Even if it's maybe not the most original idea, I don't care. It looks a lot of fun.
Really fun.
Honestly, I can't think of a better company. I could, not a better company, but one of... Insomniac's one of the greatest video game companies out there. Really the fact that they're the ones handling this.
Yeah, and I got a chance to play the demo, and it's awesome. So they showed the trailer, which was the more kind of scripted narrative sense, where they're breaking down a prison and stuff. The demo that was on the floor that you could play was more. It was completely different. You were just in the open world New York City, and you could just roam New York City. So you got a chance to do your web swinging through the skyscrapers, and it felt really good. It felt really intuitive, easy to do, and fun, but it also had a level of skill where the better you got, the better it felt, and you could see this is fun just to do as someone who barely knows how to play, but I could see you could sharp turn here, and depending on how low you get below the skyscraper, you'll be able to get more speed, all these different things. And then also there's just little mission things. Go check this out. Go check this out. Go check this out. And so you got a chance to do some of the combat and some other random things. The combat, as it did show that in the trailer.
Right.
And if you couldn't tell, it's just Batman combat to a T almost. He even has the little particle reaction above his head when his spider sense tingling, similar to how Batman had it when or an enemy would have it.
When you
counterattack.
When you have to counterattack. Same type of thing. But, like you said, that's great. I like the Batman combat, so go for it. And there's even little gadgets you could switch between. There's your web trappers. You have a trip mine type thing you could do. There's and you could imagine, you're going to get more and all that stuff. Yeah. And it felt really good and fun and responsive, and there's a lot of environmental like kind of mechanics and stuff, and it just flowed really naturally, and it was a lot. Yeah, so I'm super excited for that. It was a lot of fun.
You were mentioning like the kind of the system to kind of move around the city is something that you can get better at, and that's one of the things I really liked about the Arkham games is that you just gliding, right? Like, or just kind of swinging around using your grapple hook, like. You don't necessarily need to be doing anything in the game. Yeah. It's just kind of just fun if you're kind of burnt out on the missions. You just like, I'm going to get over to that building. And the more you play it, the better you get at swooping and kind of doing the tight turns on the cape. And that's what I want out of like the web slinging system.
Like at one point there was just like a giant radio tower on the top of the Chrysler building that you could go to, and I just like I want to get up there, so I got up there, and you like sit on a little perch like Spider-Man, and you look around, and you can see the Avengers Tower like in the distance, that's cool. And it's just like it's like the full size of New York. It seems like. Wow. I mean, you know what I mean? Like the demo, it was kind of limited space, but in terms of the map area and just like it's like dang, you could really go everywhere.
That's cool too, and because I late last year I played through. What's the games series where you got superpowers, but it's like Infamous, right? Yeah. I played the third one finally, and the first two games take place in cities that are inspired by real places but aren't actually real cities, and then the third one is just Seattle, which I thought was strange.
Seattle's a fake city.
I haven't been to Seattle, so it might be fake.
I've been there, and it's not real.
Okay, right.
They did model it off. Like I've been
well,
to
that's
Seattle,
the thing. Is it?
Well,
I was playing it, and I'm like, man, I wonder if this is accurate to Seattle, and if it is, this is. I'd probably enjoy this 5 times more if I'd actually been to the city. Yeah, and that's the thing is that New York is like such an iconic city, and I'm wondering. Well, I mean, maybe you can tell me how accurate it was.
I mean, like I said, you're limited in the demo, but it seemed fairly accurate. Like, obviously, I don't know every building, but you know the big buildings. Like I said, I saw the Chrysler building. You could see the Freedom Tower or whatever. You could see, and the Avengers Tower is not real.
Put in there, right?
But you could see Liberty Island in the Bay. You could see Staten Island. You could see like the bridges and like it looks like New York. It looks
and that's great because that's such a that in itself is almost a selling point.
Yeah, like having Central Park's there, and
having a fully realized video game version of New York to just kind of play around in.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited for it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, quick side note. Does that game take place in the MCU, or is it just like its own thing? Kind of
it's its own thing.
It's its own thing, but it's heavily banking on MCU, just like public knowledge of it and stuff.
Gotcha.
All right, so going off a little bit from there, so Insomniac, I don't know if you know them, they made Ratchet and Clank, and they made Resistance, and a couple other things, like Sunset something on Xbox. I don't play Xbox games, so I didn't play it.
Sunset Overdrive?
Yes, that thing. However, they also announced another game at E3, and as a person who works in VR, I am super excited for it.
Better to comment.
It's a game called Stormland.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know, of everything that I learned, I don't know what I can actually talk about, but you should look at the trailers. This VR game looks like the next big step forward. It looks insane. And the way they pitch it, it's going to be like this open world, co-op game online where you're playing with other people and you're able to do all this crazy stuff like climb and fly and, I guess you can actually change the world and stuff like that. Yeah, and you
can change yourself.
Yeah, it's gonna be nuts. Yeah. I highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that one too. Like you said, Chris, I think this is like they're kind of doubling down, or they're going all in on VR. I think other VR games, as cool or awesome as they are, they kind of have a limited scope. Mm-hmm. This one, it seems like no, they're going all in. They're going to make this thing as
same size as a major AAA title and stuff.
And I'm super excited for it. We actually had a chance to kind of meet / talk with some of the developers, and they kind of talked about how the controls and interaction would work, and it sounds super awesome. And that's another thing maybe about E3 is that you get a potentially run with or rub elbows with people who are literally behind the scenes, and they're just as excited about the development and creation of these games as the gamers are.
Yeah. Let's see. The next thing I have in my notes is just
solid transition.
It's just the word Nintendo with an underline. So my next question is Nintendo.
We haven't mentioned Nintendo much.
Well, let's talk about their press conference.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
I don't think press conference was right in the middle. I think in terms.
I haven't seen any.
I don't think anyone was literally ready for them to go as deep into Smash Brothers as they did.
Well,
because they were talking about like invincibility frames.
Yeah,
they were like
God.
that was their one their one selling point this year. It seemed like with Smash Brothers, and they were just like tripling down.
Well, I don't know if
on it.
there's
They're
one
like,
selling point in their press conference. It was definitely,
and it was just like they were going into like all the technicals. Like they were just trying to. It looked like they were just trying to eat up time, kind of.
maybe. And I mean, they're definitely appealing to that audience, right? The audience who's like, I prefer, Smash Melee on GameCube.
Everybody's like, do we need to talk about invincibility frames? Where's Metroid Prime 4?
Yeah.
What else stood out from Nintendo's, if anything? Because I actually haven't really heard or seen anything else besides Smash Bros.
Well, that was their big thing. I mean, on the floor, that dominated. There was a whole separate line just to get in a Smash, and then there was one other line to play everything else.
So what was part of the everything else?
So I got a chance to do the everything else. Between shifts, I waited in line, and you played the Mario Tennis game, which I like the Mario Tennis games. They're actually
I like
fun.
those games.
So
Yeah,
I was pretty excited, and they give you a chance. It comes out in like 2 weeks or when the time this is released. Maybe even less than that. Maybe just a week or something. Anyways, I might actually get I wasn't planning on it, but it was a lot of fun. They pair you up, you play doubles, all that stuff. They had like Fortnite, which I'm not a Fortnite player, but Fortnite's out now. That was on the floor. They had a handful of indie games. They had this game called Starlink, which was an Ubisoft game, which I waited on. I unfortunately couldn't play, but it looked actually a lot of fun, and their demo was really long, but it has like Star Fox characters in it. It's not a Star Fox game, but they're kind of like cameos.
Isn't that one of like those games though where you have to buy the toy and
you don't have? Yeah, it comes with some, and then if you want the expanded stuff, it does more. It makes that sound just like that. And then they had a couple indie. So I don't know if anyone's ever played Overcooked, the first Overcooked. Yep. It's a lot of fun. That game's a really fun co-op game, especially. But it's a fun game. Overcooked 2 is there again, just a small kind of indie game. There's this other one called Lady Black Death. Is that what it's called?
I think so.
And it's just like a team arcadey pixel art style game. It reminded me of Towerfall Ascension a little bit, but you're team based and you kind of have you got to kill the queen bee and they got to kill your queen bee. I played. What else? There was something else I played, but apparently it wasn't that good if I can't remember. But they had a handful of others. They had like a variety of things that were all pretty exciting. And then beyond that, though, they also they launched Hollow Knight the same week of E3, which
also launched Fortnite.
And Fortnite, it was also just kind of like they did these things in conjunction with E3 that felt as part of the experience. So it was kind of an interesting thing.
Ryan and I were sitting in line for Dragon Quest XI, and there were just a bunch of people playing Fortnite
on the Switch, which was kind of cool. Really, exactly. I mean, I don't think they work for Nintendo, but their ad campaign is you play anything, anytime, anywhere, or whatever, right? Exactly. And there they were, waiting in line to play another game, playing Fortnite.
And even the demo when I played Fortnite at the Switch booth, you're playing it live. It's not like we have a special closed LAN game.
Oh, right.
You jump in their Nintendo booth and you're playing it live. And as much as Nintendo's definitely highlighting this to kind of rub it in Sony that the Switch is cross-platform, and so you're playing with people on Xbox and PC and everyone.
Hey, Sony's cross-platform too.
With PC,
yeah.
Anyways, but so that was one of my favorite just kind of floor experiences. I guess was the whole Nintendo thing, and because it's so dominant in that West Hall or the South Hall, I guess. It's hard not to just constantly be looking at the Nintendo board with all the Smash stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just really entertaining. I'm not a huge Smash player. I enjoy them and I like having fun with them. But I didn't think I would be that excited. But I'm super excited. I actually every single character. That's crazy. And they showed there would always be this mural every couple minutes on their screen of all the Smash characters ever in any Smash game. It's all 60 plus characters or whatever. And it looks like something like, have you ever had those X-Men posters as a kid where it's every X-Men? Yeah. It was like that, but with all these Nintendo characters. But then you have Cloud and Solid Snake and Bayonetta and just Ryu and video game characters in general.
And also, unlike those X-Men posters, you actually know all these characters.
I know every single one. So it was just it was hard not to get excited and feel the energy from that. And they were having live Smash tournaments, competitive tournaments. So you'd be watching them on the board and it'd be 1v1, Final Destination. They're battling it out and just the crowd going so that was really fun. So
a note on that though is I was having this conversation at work and we were discussing how bad we kind of feel for the creators that put in all this work on all these items like Smash Balls and trophies and stuff like that. when in actuality, the game, everybody just goes into competitive mode and
I want to say
no items.
I would say
Final destination.
I don't
1v1.
do that. I say the heavy, very competitive people.
I won't play Smash if it's that. I only like to play if it's the goofiest possible way.
Yeah,
I like the goofiest
items.
stage, all items, people shrinking and growing, and all the goofiness. That's because I'm a filthy
and they did
casual.
show they showed a couple new stages too. There was 2 new playable stages. I think, right? The final destination was new, but there was a Zelda. There's a Zelda from Breath of the Wild, one of the Zelda towers and stuff. And there's new skins for Link and all that kind of stuff.
I missed my reservation to play that game, even though I was literally standing right next to the Nintendo booth.
And you still didn't go play, did you?
So I wanna in a minute transition into some weightier topics of conversation. But before I do that, I just want to are there any other things that really got you guys excited that you feel like you gotta mention, that you really think were standouts for this year's?
So Cyberpunk 2077 from the creators of Witcher 3, I honestly think one of the greatest games ever made.
Yeah, I agree.
It's obviously something to keep eyes out for. Now, this is something that's a little bit, it wasn't as prominent, but it was there. And I'm super excited for it, is this game from Atlas called Catherine is getting a remake on PS4 with additional story elements, a new girl, and online multiplayer.
I knew about that, but I didn't know they had any presence on E3.
It was just a trailer.
It was
Atlas and Sega was right behind the Nintendo booth, hidden.
Yeah.
It was kind of small. And
No,
it was just a trailer playing, just to remind everybody, hey, this is coming at the end of the year. And I was like, man, I love that game.
That's cool. I didn't. Yeah,
I love that
I
game.
didn't see that. What else? Kingdom Hearts 3 for sure, but other stuff on the Square, like Dragon Quest 11, I'm actually excited for. I'm a huge classic JRPG fan, so Dragon Quest 11, Octopath Traveler, which I mentioned on the God of War podcast with Chris, also coincided this week at E3. They released a demo that's out now that you could play, and it's just 3 hours of the game, which is really cool. But that they were showing, trailers for that. That I'm really excited for that. That's on the Switch.
I have a question. For you.
Ghost of Tsushima. It's another one. The Sony first party. That one looks really good.
I love Sucker Punch.
Yeah, that's Sucker Punch. So.
My question for you is, what do you think makes Dragon Quest so endearing? Because it doesn't change a lot, really. The combat is still very not dated, but it's still very similar to what it was
turn-based
in the 80s, even.
I don't know what was that.
Do you have something to add?
I do.
Please do.
Yes,
it looked like you had something to say, but Chris was looking over there and didn't.
No, I don't. Well, anyway, I got to play the Dragon Quest 11 demo with you. And it's kind of funny. On paper, I think the Dragon Quest games aren't that appealing, right? I've played 8 million of these games. But still being there and playing, you're like, oh yeah, this is why I originally loved playing RPGs in the first place. And it still captures that, and it's still just as fun as it ever was.
Plus you get to run around as goofy Dragon Ball characters.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But you get to run over monsters in horses this time.
Yeah.
Ooh, do you trample them and
they go.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know that you get experience actually.
No, you don't get experience. Not for horse trampling.
No horse trample experience.
Yeah, those were some. If I can't think of it, obviously it didn't leave that big of an impact.
There was the Final Fantasy trading card game booth. That's where I spent.
We did actually spend a lot of our time in that booth.
I won a tournament. I got second place in a tournament. That was cool.
Gonna dial that back a little bit.
Second place.
You won second place.
I won second place.
That's fine. That's silver. That's good.
What else?
I hear really good things about that Resident Evil 2 remake.
We didn't talk about that.
Don't have a lot of interest in
I had a friend who got to play a demo behind
but
closed
I hear
doors.
that
It
it's changed a lot to be like Resident Evil 4, which is
one of the best
widely
ones.
regarded as being one of the best, if not the best.
Yeah.
And so them all going back, recreating this with those mechanics is...
Yeah, my friend who got a chance to play it, he said he loved it, so...
one of the reasons I love Resident Evil 4 was because it was on the Wii, and I love playing with the Wii, just pulling out your dagger and slashing like that. It was just so much fun. So I don't know if we'll have that same magic for.
Yeah, it's weird how that the motion controls kind of. It's sad to say that was a fad because that's not really super thing anymore. And if you're talking about non-conventional gaming, VR is kind of the non-conventional thing that's going on right now.
Right. It's kind of taken over that, maybe?
But the motion controls, I feel like there were a lot of good ideas there, and it kind of, once the Wii died out, everybody else kind of stepped away from it.
Well, I feel like they became VR is the successor to that.
Yeah,
right? Because good VR now, the most immersive stuff, is using all of those things that we did with the motion stuff.
It's kind of now combining them.
Exactly.
It's finally combining Virtual Boy and the Wii.
Oh, good. Excellent. Synergy. So on that topic, just kind of, just gaming, just kind of evolving and changing, based on just your perceptions of what you've seen at this year's E3, what do you guys think it says about just like the industry in general? Like, because if you were to go back and look at other past E3s, like the past decades versus E3s, just the state of the gaming landscape is, changed dramatically. So what do you think is what are people going to remember from this E3, and what do you think that it says about where we are with video games at the moment? Who wants to kick that off?
I mean, I guess I kind of can.
All right, going all for it.
Honestly, this may be a really negative thing to say.
Yeah,
I really don't. In terms to answer your question, I don't really feel like anybody will really remember this E3. There was nothing so mind blowing. There was no major thing. It wasn't like a year where they announced a new console or new major thing. There were a lot of really cool games that got more addition to them or more information and stuff like that. But overall, it felt really toned back in terms. There was like nothing that was just like, oh my god, I can't wait for this thing. Right?
So, do you think that's more indicative of just 2018 is a little bit of a slow year, or do you think it's the landscape of video gaming has become so broad and kind of almost oversaturated that a single game can't make the same impact it did, 5 years ago?
I don't want to say that, because I feel like a lot of people are super excited for these games, like Cyberpunk 2077, its presence was a surprise. People weren't expecting it to be there, and everybody's been talking about it, and it sounds like there's been a couple details that came out from the behind closed doors things that they showed, and everybody was really excited about that content. Mm-hmm. So I feel like in terms of that, the hype for that game has definitely been built up. And same thing with Last of Us 2 and Death Stranding, if anybody can even guess as to what that thing is.
To me, it sounds like you just marked on 3 or 4 big games.
But it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, these did the job of getting people excited for these games, but it's not like people are going to be able to I remember 2018's E3.
So maybe more it's like how, every few years, maybe every 5 years, the gaming landscape kind of evolves into something else, and we're kind of just in that period in between where we're kind of we've kind of figured out what this generation looks like, and kind of it's a natural continuation.
I think they even mentioned that at Sony's conference or whatever. It's like, we are at a point where we are so comfortable. We got this sweet lineup of these exclusive games, and they're coming, and we're going to keep that coming, and we'll see where that takes us, right? And
sure.
I agree that this E3 was probably an in-between year of tentpole years.
Because I would even say last year wasn't anything too grand.
I would say this year, I like
maybe
this
the year
is
before
better than last year's, for sure. But what I was going to say, though, is that you say, I remember that E3. Why should we be remembering specific E3s?
I guess not really.
Right? Shouldn't we remember
but
the games? The games are what we should remember.
Yeah.
Right? So why does it matter if I don't remember 2007 E3? Who cares? Right? Shouldn't I remember the games?
This leads me into my next question. Okay. Do you think E3 is necessary?
Who wrote those notes?
Why? They're my questions.
Oh, sorry.
I'm the director of photography.
I think E3 is necessary because as much as they allow the public in now, which is cool, I think it was handled the best this year. I think it's really cool that they were early hours, industry only, let them kind of get through their things, and then let the public in later in the day. That helped with the crowds a little bit, and pushing for the people trying to sell their games, essentially. It helped them focus, and it wasn't such a mess. But beyond that, it's still an industry event, regardless of the public being there. And like I said before, the real goal of E3 is selling games to not just consumers, but to publishers and things like that. So it's still very important that it happened.
Yeah, I mean, not to get into the kind of that nitty gritty aspect of it, as much as I do think that the spectacle of E3, especially from where it came from the notorious place of 20 years ago, 15 years ago, E3 being about this, because I remember Ryan actually didn't go, but a friend of mine, I went like in 2003 or something like that. Like the height of, if you guys remember when E3 was just like booth babes and just loud, and we went in and there was a live half pipe where like pro skaters were like doing tricks in the middle of E3, and there was like, it was like the most ridiculous, silly kind of, not gluttonous in that everyone, but kind of that mentality, right? And it's come so far since then, where it's not about the spectacle per se so much anymore. And I think in a lot of ways, that's actually not a bad thing. It doesn't always have to, I don't know if it's purely beneficial for us to have to remember E3 for itself. The game should be what we remember. That being said, I do think E3 is really important and necessary because it's video game week, like, globally. And that's an important thing, right? Like the Oscars for the film industry is like, boom, that's like, right? There's no equivalent that for video games. They've tried to do the video game awards and things like that. But like, ultimately in the games industry, it's E3 week. That is the week to know about games, to be into games and viewers.
And I have a lot of friends who aren't, I wouldn't even consider them gamers, but they'll text me like, "Oh, Ryan, I saw this," and because they know that I'm happen to be going, and heck, even at work, I'll see people wearing like an E3 T-shirt from years ago. It's just like everyone kind of acknowledges, this is video game week, kind of like Shark Week.
Yes. What about you? Do you think E3 is necessary, Chewy, as someone who didn't attend?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, nothing's necessary. Why does anyone do anything?
Oh, okay, I guess that's true.
No, I mean,
my eyes are now open.
I certainly like it.
Yeah.
And I think as, like you were mentioning how different forms of media have kind of their rallying point. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay.
Necessary? I don't know. But I appreciate it. I like that there's like a time of the year where I can look forward to and say, okay, this is what the rest of the year is the next year is gonna look like for this hobby that I'm into, for this thing I like. So I appreciate that as a thing that exists.
And I thought when I mentioned the Oscars, kind of comparing to them, I do like that the Oscars and a lot of awards, like whatever, Tonys or what other Grammys or Emmys, those are all awards, so they're looking back, right? Where I like that E3 is where the games industry is always looking forward,
right? And the video game industry is such a young form of media. It's so infant, really. Still, it's only been around for a few decades, and it's all about innovating. It's all about looking forward,
right? And I think that's one of the reasons why I like going to these conventions too, because it does. Yeah, the landscape changes. Just in you're talking about 10, 15 years ago, how different it was. Yeah, we're seeing this new medium evolve in our lifetimes, and I think that's really exciting because it's not going to go away. Right? Yeah. And it's going to keep getting crazier and more advanced or just whatever. And it's really exciting to be part of its infancy, right? And you two are part of its creation. So, raise the baby well.
I was thinking that's as a reference, like when you went in 2003, it was like it was in its awkward teenage years.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And now we're in like our business 20s, like mid-20s. We got suits on.
I mean,
take ourselves seriously.
I haven't seen any of you guys wear a suit.
I mentioned like just watching the Smash trailer on the floor, but beyond just like the excitement for the game itself, it was hard not to just like definitely take all in the enjoyment and the excitement for the industry of just. Because in a lot of ways, Smash representing the history of, like, right? It's Mario. Like, back, that's what, like, the origins, and now with Pac-Man, it's like, and characters now we have Cloud and Bayonetta and Snake. Like, it spans the history, and just indulging in that, just kind of basking in that. Everyone's here. They love video games. This is, embrace it. It's not something that is a trifle anymore, right?
Right, yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Anyway, that's my thoughts on E3. I was gonna say I had one fun moment too. That is kind of
just one.
Well, I had lots of fun moments.
Okay, but tell me about this.
There was. I was walking by a lot of the E3 floor stuff. There's like IGN and different media outlets have like live from the floor of E3. We're talking with blah blah blah, and they're gonna talk about this. And so there's people walking by as they're doing their live broadcasts. And there was one outlet. There was I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but it was like 4 people on a couch. and they were like playing some phone game. So they were all 4 of these people were being live streamed on a couch playing this phone game. So on screen, they're all 4 looking at their phones. The people in the live audience, like they have little chairs set up out front, they were all on their phones, not looking at the live people on TV. So there were people being live streamed on their phones watching, people in the live audience on their phones watching, no one watching live stream, and I'm just imagining there's probably people hundreds of miles away around the world who are watching on their phones, watching this live stream. It's just like no one is participating in their thing in front of them. They're like, oh, I don't know, I just thought it was like this weird meta, just like, what is happening?
That's
that's
how it works. That's how it goes sometimes.
Sometimes.
That's a good sign up. That's how it goes sometimes.
All right. Well.
Anyways, side note, but I know
that's good. That's just things change, they evolve, and there you go. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Ryan and I played a cell phone game.
Oh, that's fun.
Well, that was a good sign off. Why don't you guys got anything significant to add, or why don't I bring it home?
Yeah, bring it on home.
I mean, yeah, sure.
Let's give
home.
this a shot. Well, if you like what you hear right here, you can find us on. Look, I pulled the list up. I'm prepared this time. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Google Play Music or Pocket Casts. You can also subscribe to us on Radio Public, or we have an RSS feed. Did you guys know that we have that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We set it up.
Yeah,
I set it up.
Set it up.
Do people still do that?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
So.
If you want to contact us directly, we're at The Yum Chunks on Twitter. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube, which is also The Yum Chunks. We have all of our video content, and our podcasts are there as well. So you got your whole pick of ways. You can also email us at yumchunks@gmail.com if you want to send us a letter, give us some feedback, tell us what we're good at or not good at, or, just generally hey, how's it going? So there you go.
Could do all those things.
You could do all of it. You could do none of it.
They're probably going to do none of it.
After the credits, signing off.
Bye!